Welcome to our 5 on 5. We're pleased to be joined by Jack Earl, author of Where Sadness Breeds. Jack, great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
All right, so tell us, Where Sadness Breeds, this is a very personal story for you. Tell us about it.
Well, back in 1973, my aunt and uncle and two cousins who lived in Lodi, California, were 4 of 9 people executed in a farmhouse outside of Lodi. And I was 22 at the time. I lived nearby. And as you can imagine, it was just a shock to get that news. So we all gathered, our family gathered in Lodi, and I watched the day after hearing the news. I watched both of them being captured on TV. They were captured in Sacramento. And it just shocked me because I was expecting, a killer to be some grizzled old con or something. And one of those captured was Doug Gretzler, the other one, Willie Steelman. But Doug Gretzler was my age, and I thought, there's got to be a mistake.
Yeah.
And no, there was no mistake. In fact, over the next several days, both of them admitted not only these killings, but 17 in all, over about a 17-day period in Arizona and California. Wow. And I just, during those few days was surreal, actually. And you just can't put your finger on why this happened or what caused them. But they admitted fully to the deeds. And, we buried our family the following Monday and then tried to go on with our lives. But this thing just kind of swirled around in me. I just couldn't grasp it. And over the next 20 years, I thought, what happened to these guys? Well, there was never a big trial. They were extradited to Arizona. They were sentenced to death. But the story just disappeared. And 20 years later, I was shown the original crime reports for a double homicide in Apache Junction, Arizona. And when I was shown those, it just hit home. It like sucked the wind out of me because I realized at the time when these cops in Arizona were investigating these crimes, my aunt and uncle and cousins were still alive. And I just wanted to jump in those pages and go back and warn them and change history. And of course, I knew I couldn't do that. But I became obsessed. I became obsessed with all the people involved, not only the killers, but all the victims, all the families, all the cops chasing them. And I just went on about a 3 or 4 year expedition of trying to find out the story that nobody really knew. And I decided that if it was going to be told, I was going to have to tell it. And that's kind of where it began in the early 90s.
Incredible. All right, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
We'll have much more with Jack in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to our 5 on 5. Again, we're here with Jack Earl, author of Where Sadness Breeds. And I was remiss not to mention, Jack, that you are a Roseburg resident, correct?
I lived 30 years here in Medford,
yeah.
and while I wrote the book, and had a business here in town, but my job transferred me to Roseburg. So I've lived there since about the last 7 or 8 years. So.
Well, we're glad to have you back in the Valley. And, of course, we're talking about this tragic 17-person killing spree. Why isn't this story more well-known, you think?
I think that was a big question because everybody thought something of this magnitude certainly would have been written about, a story told about it, a movie, whatever. The magnitude, I think, worked against it. When I started in on this, I had no idea what I was going to uncover. And I did not want to cheapen this or dumb down my book. I wanted everybody, whether it was a juror or a witness or a family member of a victim or the killers themselves, I wanted their story told. Everybody had a story, a little piece to this puzzle I was putting together. I think, I didn't have any grand illusions about making a book. I was just wanting to tell a story. But I think along the way, I realized that if you were an author and you did that for a living, you couldn't put this book together that quickly. I mean, you've got a small window. It's got to be 286 pages. It's got to fit this formula, and this didn't. And the other thing is that these guys, there was no big trials in California. They were extradited immediately, almost in the middle of the night, to Arizona, where the death penalty existed, and their trials were separated there. One was sent to a tiny town in the Navajo Nation called St. John's. Doug Gretzler's trial was in Prescott. There was no cable TV. I mean, reporters were paid by the word. It just disappeared, and it really took a lot of digging to put the story back together.
Yeah, and we're running short on time, but I do want to talk about Gretzler's execution. Tell us, you were there.
I visited Gretzler in prison a couple of times. As his execution came close, I found out he expected me to be there as his way of apologizing. So I went to it, and Over the time, I had to forgive him for his crimes, although I never forgot what he did and the evil he brought upon so many people.
Of course. Okay, and where can people find your book?
Well, it's on Amazon. You can find it on Amazon.com, Where Sadness Breathes. You can also order it through me. I've got a Facebook page, Where Sadness Breathes, that talks a little bit more about the book on a daily basis. And just contact me or get it on Amazon.
Incredible story. I wish we had more time. Jack, great to meet you.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Stay with us. We'll be right back.